So just by way of introduction as to who's on the meeting today, I'm Paula Haig. I'm Business Development Manager at St Helens and Knowsley College. And my team look after apprenticeships and the onboarding of apprenticeships right up until they start their journey on programme with us. So we work with employers in helping them get set up with accounts on the digital apprenticeship service. And Caroline, who's helping support today, does a lot of that background work for us. We work with vacancies as well, and we work in conjunction with Knowsley Council, who are also on the call, in terms of advertising through the digital apprenticeship service, and we support with that recruitment piece as well. So the purpose of today's session is very much around funding and support out there for businesses. We know that it's difficult now and costs have gone up. So whatever support you can access, and we can help put you together and put you in line with the people who can help support that, we want to do that. So I'll talk initially about the funding that small businesses get, and then I'm going to hand on as we go through to Knowsley Council, and then on to Gemma, and finally Jo. So from the government's perspective, all businesses, no matter actually the size of the organisation, are entitled to £1,000 grant related to age of an apprentice when they start on the programme. So if you employ an apprentice, an individual who is 16 to 18 at the time of enrolment, then you can access a grant of £1,000. The way this is worked is it's paid to the provider, it's paid to us from government, and then we on pay to the business. So 2 instalments, it's just in the first year, and it's 2 instalments of £500. The first of which is paid at around about 90 days, and then the second 500 is paid at the end of the first year. So as I say, that is to all apprentices enrolled 16 to 18. So long as they've not turned 19 when they're enrolled, that entitlement is paid to the employer who takes that apprentice on. And the idea is that it's helping support with extra funding that may be required in a young person getting started within the business. So that's in multiples as well. So if you take on more than one apprentice, you're entitled to that per apprentice that meets that criteria. There's also a change in recent years whereby an apprentice now all the way up to 21, if you're not a levy paying company. And what that means is if your pay bill, your overriding pay bill for your organisation is less than £3 million, then you are a non-levy paying organisation. In that respect, if you employ somebody between the age of 16 and 21 on an apprenticeship scheme, it has to be an accredited apprenticeship scheme, then that is fully funded by government. So there is no funding requirement for the apprenticeship training cost. If the employee that you take on, the apprentice, is between the ages of 16 and 21. If they are 22 and above, then there is a co-contribution of 5%. However, we do have Jo on the call who will be able to talk to you a little bit about how that may be able to get covered by accessing transfer of levy funds. So I'll hand over to Knowsley Council now, but just before I do, I should have said, sorry, at the start of the call, if you do have any questions, please do pop them in the chat. We've, for obvious reasons, muted everybody on the call, and also taken camera option off because a lot of people don't like that, and because it's recorded as well for GDPR. But if you do have any questions, please pop them into the chat, and Carolyn will field those to us at the end, dependent on who they're relevant to. So if I can hand over to Tammy, if that's okay.
I went to say good morning then, it's been a long day. So good afternoon, I'm Tammy from Knowsley Council. So my job role is to create local employment opportunities for our local Knowsley residents. So part of my role is to create apprenticeship opportunities as well. So similar to Paula and the college, we are out there speaking to the employers daily to see if anybody is interested in taking a young person. the bit of the carrot dangle, shall I say, that Knowsley have got, which no local authority have got at the minute, is a £4,500 grant. So within that grant, you've got to recruit via us. We have to then speak to our local training providers and colleges to make sure that there's an apprenticeship framework in the certain area that you're looking to recruit in. And that payment is paid back over a 9-month period. So similar to the government incentives where it's paid back at £500, ours is too, but it's paid £500 per month. We always say that's a good little thing for the first 9 months of you as an employer, while a young person is embedding within the business and maybe be a cost to use and they're only just new. Hopefully that £500 to go towards the wages will help over them first 9 months. What we do like to say is if the qualification is a 2-year qualification, the grant is only for the first year. So it will only be for that very first 9 months. Again, like the government's incentive and the college, it is for each apprentice that you take on, but they've got to be a Knowsley resident. There's only one small stipulation in this, it's you do have to pay minimum wage for their age. So if it is a 16, 17-year-old at the minute, that is minimum wage and the apprenticeship rate is exactly the same. Once you start heading into 18 to 21, 21 and above, that then can have a little bit of an increase. And I will send all that out for you if anybody's interested. So we do a full breakdown of what it will cost you, and we roughly do it as a 35-hour week because minimum is 30 hours, probably maximum is 40. So we went in the middle just to show you a calculation of what it would cost you as a business. So at the minute, we've still got funding available. There's not many though. Literally this week, we went live last week. So we've gone live and we keep all our vacancies open for about 6 to 7 weeks. We like our young people to concentrate on the GCSEs or their A-levels. So these next couple of weeks are crucial. We do keep it open for a further 2 weeks. So once they've done all their exams, they've then got time to look on the website and decide what they want to apply for. So grants are still available. I am uploading jobs daily. So employers have been saying, sorry, I've missed the deadline. Is there any chance we can still recruit? And it will take probably about 3 or 4 days by the time I liaise with local training providers to make sure the qualification is there. But yeah, that's a little bit of a nutshell. If you're interested, put your name in the group or share it with Paula, and then I'll send all the information out for you. And it shows you exactly what you're committing to as well.
Great, thank you. So I will send on these slides to everybody that's on the call and everybody that booked as well. So the contact details for each of the speakers that are on the webinar today will be there. So you can liaise through us as the business development team or directly through the respective speaker that you feel is relevant. So that's fine for you to do that. So thank you for that, Tammy. Gemma, if we can come to you with regards to CITB, and just to specify that each of these grants, whilst we're talking about these separately, can be accumulation. So if you had a Knowsley resident who was on a CITB funded apprenticeship and was 16 to 18, you could in theory access all of those grants, just to let you know that. Okay, Gemma.
Right, yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm Gemma from CITB. So this is very construction specific. Hopefully the construction businesses out there will know who CITB are, but just in case you don't, we are the Construction Industry Training Board, and we work to encourage and incentivize training within industry by offering grants. In this case, for recruitment and enrolment of apprentices, the grants are pretty lucrative, especially if you're doing them in line with the Knowsley apprenticeship grants. We have 4 grants that are running at the moment. For recruitment, we have the work experience grant. So if you're able to offer a work placement to somebody who's on a full-time construction course within the college at level 2 or above, then we will be able to pay you £500 for offering that 30-hour work placement. That is a standalone grant. You can claim that just by itself. So it's £500 for a 30-hour work placement, and you can claim that up to 5 times in a year running April to April. If you've already done some placements and you don't think you've claimed, then you can just contact me and we'll look back and see if we can get you some backdated payments. If you then offer one of those students employment as a full-time employee or as an apprentice, you can claim an additional £1,000 grant. So that's called the employment grant. They need to be on PAYE for 3 months, and once you reach that stage, you can put in that application. Again, you can claim that up to 5 times in a year. So what a lot of construction employers choose to do is when they're looking to recruit an apprentice, is trial a few students from the college, pick somebody who's suitable and take that person on in order to access those grants. Then once you enrol your apprentice, we have the attendance grant. This is £2,500 per year, and it's paid in instalments. So you get £625 every 13 weeks throughout the length of the apprenticeship. So that's from their start date right up until gateway, which is when they start their assessment period. Then at the end of the apprenticeship, when you have a certificate to show they've completed their endpoint assessment, we can pay a £3,500 lump sum. This goes for all construction apprenticeships except for plumbing, gas and electrical, because we don't cover those trades at this moment in time. Everything else we do. Again, if you think you've missed any grants in the past, then please just get in touch, because we will be able to backdate. And if you aren't yet registered with CITB but would like to just talk it through and see if it's for you, then get in touch. I'll be happy to have that conversation. And again, if you register now, we can backdate attendance grant by a year. So hopefully that covers everything for now. If there's any questions, just let me know.
I think there are a couple of questions, but if that's okay, we're just going to save them to the end, just in case anything does get answered. I think one just came up actually related for CITB, Gemma, so we'll pose those at the end if that's all right. I'll ask Carolyn just to share those questions. Just to give you background on what apprenticeships the college offers in relation to CITB, and that's not to say obviously if you look to another trade that we don't offer, you can still link up with CITB, but at the college we do everything above the ground and below the roof really. So that is bricklaying, painting, decorating, joinery, plastering, property maintenance operative. Obviously we do offer plumbing and electrical, but as Gemma said, unfortunately they aren't within CITB at the moment. So but all of the other aforementioned trades are. So if there is something that you're curious as to whether it's we can offer, and again, Knowsley Council are great at aligning with us and other providers in terms of job match to apprenticeship standards. So where we can, we'll help you with that and support you with that. So thank you, Gemma. If I can come to Joe then, regards the transfer of levy funds.
Thanks, Paula. Afternoon, everybody. Excuse the croaky throat. I've just got a bit of a cough. But anyway, yeah, my name's Joe Keegan. I'm the employer brokerage manager from the Liverpool City Region Combined Authority. I have to say, if you're an employer in Knowsley, you're in a great place, because no other local authority area really across the Liverpool City region has the support that's offered through Knowsley that I've seen. There's only one other area that offers some kind of grant, but it's not as much as you get from Knowsley. So it's a great place to be an employer and to take on apprentices from. And I say that as well as being a Knowsley resident, so I'm always plugging the area. So what my team does is they work with employers to identify any skills gaps in relation to skills and apprenticeships. So that's the whole of the skills landscape. Lots of different funding streams. It says AEB there. It's now called Adult Skills Fund. We've got something called skills boot camps and, of course, apprenticeships. And there's now and again some other pots of money, some other funding that comes up. For example, we just picked up some UK SPF, UK Shared Prosperity Fund funding. And that's the government's replacement for the ESF funding that we lost, unfortunately, when we left the EU. The big push for us is on apprenticeships. And the key thing for us is to try and keep as much of the apprenticeship levy in the city region as we can. Nationally, there's talk of about £4 billion being taken by Treasury from employers' levy pots. So, as Paula said, if you're an employer with a pay bill of more than £3 million, you will be paying into a levy pot every month. That started in 2017. When we got to 2019, because every monthly payment has a shelf life of 24. Sorry, every payment has a shelf life of 24 months. Then when we got to May 2019, employers started to see that money was flowing out of their levy pots. And then they started to ask questions about, why is this happening? You know, what can we do to stop it? Can we gift some of it? So that's what we've been doing since 2019, is working with levy payers who are losing money out of their levy pots to the Treasury to try and keep it in the city region to benefit local businesses. And we've done that quite successfully. We're now up to £10.5 million worth of levy funds that we facilitated. So, you know, without boasting really, but without us getting involved in that, probably a lot of that money would have gone out of the city region and wouldn't have been used for apprenticeships. So that's about 1,800 apprentices. It's over 300 businesses that have benefited from that. So there's some large levy payers out there, and we work with the likes of BBC, Amazon. You'll see the others on there, you know, QVC, Liverpool Football Club. Amazon have gifted over £1.5 million worth of levy to employers through our levy transfer service. And the BBC came to us because they found out what we were doing in terms of levy transfer and said they wanted to get involved. And they've even said that the Liverpool City region picks up most of their levy, picks up more of their levy than any other area across the country. So that's really good to hear. So the key opportunity really is, if you're an employer who's not a levy payer and potentially you might fall into the 5% contribution that you need to make towards the apprenticeship training cost, we can sort out a levy transfer for you. I have to say 99.9% of levy transfers that we put forward to levy payers are picked up. We've not had virtually any knockback. So there's always that opportunity. So you're in a great place if you're in Knowsley, or you're picking up on Knowsley apprentices. If you're in the construction sector, and I think again, don't think any other sector has the type of support that CITB offers and the type of grants. And then you can pick up on a levy transfer. It's a bit like the golden egg. You know, you've got all of those things dropping into place. To register for support from ourselves, you just click on the link that's in the slide, and we can contact you and we can go through your skills and apprenticeship needs. That's it from me.
Thank you, Joe. So that really rounds up our speakers of the respective areas, and hopefully gives you some insight into the funding streams and grants that are available. We keep close with government policies and changes, because you never know, and things can change, as we've seen very much so in the last sort of 12-18 months. So if anything does changes and any extra funding ever does become available, then we will be sure to let you know. But in kind of summation, I suppose, there are access grants out there, certainly in the Liverpool City region, Knowsley areas, that can certainly help support in that initial phases of taking on an apprentice. I think you've heard from kind of both sides of the coin in terms of that younger, taking on a younger apprentice, and also the benefits potentially that employees see in taking on somebody who may be a little bit more mature, because you've got access to sites. Some sites will request that people are 18 plus. That might be a site requirement. Some employers prefer drivers. You know, there might be stipulations that lean you towards a more mature student. And what we haven't actually touched on is that you can use a lot of these funding options and grants for existing employees. So if you've got existing employees that you want to reskill or upskill, so I know Gemma and I have had conversations previously about somebody who may have trained in a specific area of construction, and actually a multi-skilled additional qualification would be a great option to be able to facilitate being able to do more in addition to that plumbing, electrical, joinery, or whatever qualification they've previously done. So long as the job role substantiates it, there can be room to reskill and upskill existing staff, as well as appointing new. So I just wanted to make that point. So Carolyn, if you can just have a look to see, have we got questions that we might be able to answer?
Yeah, we've got a couple in the chat. So the first one was, is this session just applicable to businesses in England, or does it apply to Wales?
Unfortunately, yes, it is just England. The funding rules are different for Wales. So we can't help you on that. It is specifically for England. So sorry if you've remained on the session and it's felt like it's not so relevant for yourself. But we can certainly look at putting you in the right direction to seek advice on that.
I will say CITB grants are available in Wales.
Apologies. Yeah, apologies. Yeah.
The second one was, presuming that the CITB grants, they're only applicable for CITB levy paying businesses?
No, yes and no. So CITB registered employers, yes, but they don't need to be paying the CITB levy. So what you might not be aware of is if when you register with CITB every year, you have to let us know your payroll costs. If your payroll costs are below 135,000 in a year, then you don't pay into the levy, but you can still access all of the grants. So that's something that a lot of small businesses aren't necessarily aware of because they think if they register, they will have to pay. It's not the case. Small companies don't have to pay and they can still access the grants.
And we can put people in touch with you, Gemma, obviously, for advice and guidance on that, on the scaling of contribution, if there is one required, or as you say, or not, as the case.
It's not as easy as sort of a particular amount of money. There's always a scale. So and also having a conversation with me won't sign you up to anything. So I'm happy to just talk it through.
Yeah.
It might be worth just mentioning that the word levy sometimes causes some confusion when we talk about CITB and the national levy. So two different things. The levy I was talking about is one for employers who have a pay bill of more than £3 million, but CITB's is completely different.
Yeah.
So yeah.
CITB, I think, is membership, isn't it? Unfortunately, CITB came first with the terminology of levy, and government decided to use the word levy, and it does muddy the water somewhat. But CITB membership, and then which is terminology called a levy, but pay bill is related to the levy from a government finance funding perspective. So was there anything else, Carolyn?
Just a couple of others. Do employers have to pay the apprentices college day release?
Yes, yes, you do. So as an employer, you are liable for whatever hours, contracted hours of work, including a day release. Not all apprenticeships have a day release model. Some might be what we call remote or peripatetic. That means everything's kind of delivered within a work setting and there is no requirement to attend college on day release. However, which model it is, yes, if it is a day release model, for example, all of the construction trades operate in that format, then yes, you would. So if they're employed with you for 40 hours Monday to Friday, of which 8 hours, one of those days is college day, then you must pay them the 40 hours. I think something to mention with increasing costs, because it would be remiss not to acknowledge that, and hopefully we've given you some insight onto those accessible grants to help support that. But wages have gone up, that's all common knowledge. We know that's the case. If it's a case of taking somebody on because business demands, and we hear of the construction, particularly arena, in skill shortages, that goes across from engineering and production to, if you still need to look at succession planning and bringing new blood into the business, don't necessarily think it has to be a 40-hour model. It may be that you look at a smaller reduced hours. You might look at 30 hours a week, and that might be slightly easier for you to fund. So it could actually be 3 days out on site within the business and a day releasing college, and you're paying them for the 4 days. So I think just to open people's minds really to the fact that it doesn't have to be a contracted 37, 40 hours a week. You can look at how the modelling would work best for your business from a financial point of view as well.
And then just one last one, which I think is for you again, Paula. If I take on a 22-year-old, how much will it cost my organisation?
Okay, so as we've said before, there is the opportunity to look at transfer of levy funds in terms of being able to support the 5% co-contribution. So if we find a match through Joe's team and we can get that support, then the training aspect, so the full apprenticeship cost, is funded by that transferring organisation, you would just be liable for their wages. So bearing in mind the first year, regardless of age, is £7.55 minimum minimum apprenticeship wage in the first year. Beyond that, so year 2 and above, once they've turned 19 or over, then you will be paying national minimum wage. So that's just something to bear in mind. Anything else?
Sorry, I put up my mic on mute. Tammy's just actually put into the chat. So she's just said, based on a 35-hour working week, this would be the costings for the year. So for let's have a look. So 52 weeks at £12.21. Oh, so is that the
That's 21 and over rate.
So that's, yeah, and that's the national minimum wage, isn't it?
Yeah, sorry, I just thought to give a flavour of what if you went through the Knowsley Apprentice programme, that's roughly what you're looking at. Minus your £4,500 grant and potentially the other grants that are on the table as well. Just for an idea.
That's great, thank you. So if nobody else has got any questions, then we'll conclude the session. As I say, we will get this edited because we joined a little early just to make sure everything was operationally working. And then we can send on the presentation for you. And all the links to everybody who's spoken today are on the presentation. If you do have questions after, quite often happens, something pops into your head as the meetings close, then do please contact us. On the first slide, our contact details, if you can just go back to that, Carolyn, I hope, is on there, and that's business unit at, maybe the second slide, business unit at sthelens.ac.uk, and we can link you up with anybody on the call or indeed help you with anything we've discussed today. So thank you ever so much for joining. Hope it's been useful, and thanks again to the speakers that have joined us today.